Hello, everybody. It's Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News, your Texas Rangers insider. You can find me besides the Dallas Morning News at dallasnews.com, where I've got everything you could possibly want to know about the Texas Rangers. No hyperbole at all there. No hyperbole whatsoever. But we did have a very busy time leading up to the trade deadline. Let's go over a little bit of that. Go over a little bit of how that impacts the pitching rotation, and talk a little bit about what is dogging the Rangers lineup at the moment. Please note I am unshaven. So tired after the trade deadline, couldn't even pick up a razor. I'm sorry. I usually try to look my best for you. Anyway, here we go. So the Rangers, very active at the deadline, or in the days leading up to the deadline. If you want to go back to June 30th, when they acquired Aroldis Chapman, they added 4 pitchers. Chapman, the big gun, Max Scherzer, Jordan Montgomery, Chris Stratton. They added a catcher in Austin Hedges in the final minutes leading up to the deadline. Did not add any bats. And I know that they did add a position player in Hedges, but it'd be wrong to kind of qualify him as a bat. He's here to help guide the pitching staff. He's an expert framer. He's not much of a hitter at this point in time. Hitting a .170. I think his OPS over the last 3 years is below 600. So what he is an excellent pitch framer. I believe he leads the major leagues this year in defensive runs gained by framing at like plus 10 runs. Jonah Heim was third at 7. We'll go into all of that in just a minute, but let's go run down the trade deadline. Pretty entertaining. The Rangers got Max Scherzer on Saturday in a trade with the New York Mets. And listen, Max is not having the kind of year that he's used to. He acknowledged in his introductory press conference on Tuesday that it's been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde year. But really, if you take out 2 starts in the middle of June, back-to-back starts against Atlanta, which has perhaps the best offense in baseball, and the New York Yankees, ZRA is fine. He's allowing more homers than he typically has allowed, but he's always allowed a lot of home runs. We'll see how that plays at Globe Life Field. Had mentioned that he had hung a few too many sliders, but he thinks he's kind of found the answer there. And listen, I think one thing that cannot be overlooked in all of this is that Max Scherzer has worked with Mike Maddox before. Now, I don't think Mike is going to take him into the garage and open up the hood and do a bunch of tinkering around. You don't do that with Max Scherzer. I don't know that any pitching coach has had any great has done any great mechanics overhaul or anything like that on Scherzer, but the duo do have a good relationship. They do have a good track record of when they worked together in 2016 and 17. Scherzer won back-to-back Cy Young awards. He trusts Mike. He understands Mike, which is an acquired taste. Mike can be direct. He has lots of thoughts, expresses them simply and directly. And I think a guy like Max Scherzer responds well to that. Scherzer will make his first Ranger start on Thursday. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so he hasn't started yet for the Rangers. But listen, I think when you add in the fact that clearly the Mets situation was a mess this year on every front, and that's going to get into a player's head no matter how focused you are. Add in that Scherzer is 39 and wants to win and is now going into the heart of a pennant race. Pretty wild pennant race, too, that's bound to get more interesting. And that he has familiarity with Mike Maddox, and really, as he singled out Mike's scouting reports, said that Mike has some of the best scouting reports he's ever read. You factor all those things in, and I think you've got the ability to have a guy whose performance kicks up a notch. And I think that you take those 2 starts out in mid-June, performance was fine, wasn't overwhelming, but it was fine. I think you've got the ability to have a really good starter down the stretch. Add to that Jordan Montgomery, who has pitched well in St. Louis this year, and who worked with Mike Maddox also last pennant race with St. Louis, came over in a trade with the Yankees, rolled off 6 straight wins during that time with Mike, and had a 3.11 ERA. Had his best strikeout to walk rate of his career. Again, a guy who comes in, and it's like Mike Maddox said yesterday, you know, these guys know what's expected of them. They understand the language. You don't have to do a whole lot of onboarding with them. And that makes the transition seamless. You know, I think you can often see a pitcher come in to a new situation, struggle for 2, 3, 4 starts before getting their legs under them. And with the Rangers holding only a half-game lead over Houston in the American League West, there's not a ton of time for adjustment periods. So I think that's important. The third pitcher that was added in the last week was Chris Stratton, who also spent the last 2 months of last year with Mike in St. Louis. Pitched really, really well. Had a 2.78 ERA in 22 innings, did not allow a home run. He's going to go into the middle of the bullpen where he can pitch an inning or 2. I think Bruce Bochy also has a feel for him because he managed him for 3 years in St. Louis. And so it's a good mix. You add, maybe I'm making too much of this, but I really do think the element of familiarity makes for a seamless transition and makes the ability for these pitchers to maximize what they can do for this club. I think it's interesting also that the Rangers went out and made their trades, and Houston responded. The Astros clearly felt they needed to respond to the Rangers trades, and did respond pretty well by going out and getting Justin Verlander to front their rotation. Again, they have history with Justin Verlander. Verlander has history there. Verlander's pitched really, really well the last 6 weeks. So it's going to be really interesting to see, as I wrote in print and online for Wednesday morning. Steve Cohen's largesse is going to be what determines the American League West, because he sent multi-time Cy Young Award winners to the Rangers and the Astros in Scherzer and Verlander. He's also paying a significant amount of the freight, spend at least $32 million to pay down the rest of Scherzer's contract. He's going to pay at least $35 million to pay down the rest of Verlander's contract, with the possibility of that going to $52 million if Verlander vests his player option for 2025 by pitching 140 innings next year. Steve Cohen would be on the hook for a bunch of that. So threw a bunch of millions at the American League West, picked up a couple of prospects, and that's going to be what I think in large part determines this division. The Rangers have addressed their biggest need. Their biggest need was pitching. By far, their biggest need was pitching. Yes, I think if you were prioritizing, the bullpen has been a bigger need over the course of the full season, but we've had some situations arise here around the Rangers over the last month or so, which Nathan Eovaldi's had some soreness in his elbow, not ligament related. The Rangers emphasized not ligament related. John Gray got hit by a line drive, pitched through it, but there was some post line drive swelling and edema. And the Rangers have backed off for about a week. He's started, I believe, last at Houston a week ago Monday. Probably won't start until Saturday or Sunday of this weekend against the Miami Marlins. So he'll get a little bit extra rest. That's necessary. Now, as far as the bullpen goes, yes, Stratton goes into the bullpen, but you're also going to have eventually 2 starters in the rotation right now slide into the bullpen. If Eovaldi comes back, you're going to have Eovaldi, you're going to have Scherzer, you're going to have Montgomery, and you're going to have probably John Gray. The fifth starter will come from Martin Perez, Dane Dunning, and Andrew Heaney, and two of those guys will end up in the bullpen. Heaney pitched really well on Wednesday and made a strong statement that he'd like to not be the guy shifted to the bullpen. 6 shutout innings, 2 hit ball against Chicago, 11 strikeouts. Strong statement. I think what also works against him, though, is Heaney has been successful in a bullpen role in the past, perhaps more so than Martin. So I think the Rangers are going to have to figure out what makes more sense, to have him start every 5th day or have him available to go two innings or one time through the order a couple times a week. I do think that Dane Dunning, as well as he pitched, he also started out the year in the bullpen, and I think he's going to serve a really strong role in the bullpen at some point as a guy who comes in when the Rangers need a ground ball. He's a guy capable of doing that. You know, he with that sinker, he's really capable of getting ground balls. So I think one of the lefties will go to the bullpen, and I think Dunning will go to the bullpen. I think if you move both lefties to the bullpen, you end up almost 2 left-handed out there. They've already got Chapman, Smith, Brock Burke, all on the left-handed side. I think that you add one more, your bullpen's pretty well split, evenly split. If you go the other route, I think you're going to end up a little bit too left-handed out there. So that's the pitching situation. I think the way I tried to explain it on our podcast this morning is that, yeah, it was a gross add of only one pitcher in the bullpen. But when you start factoring in the extra guys that are going to move from the rotation of the bullpen, now it's a trickle-down effect of about 3 full pitchers that makes a big difference. It's going to make a big, big difference. So that was the club's priority going into the deadline. It's really hard to say that any team did more to add pitching than the Rangers have when you go back to the Chapman edition. But the American League West added 8 pitchers to contenders. The Astros got Verlander and Kendall Graveman from the Chicago White Sox. The Angels got Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez from the White Sox. The Rangers got their pitchers. So it's been a very busy time in the American League West. It's going to make for a very interesting playoff race. The Rangers lead by a half a game as I record this. Of course, last night, on Wednesday night, the Rangers in the playoff, in the trade deadline situation, they pushed their chips in by adding all those pitchers. The Astros answered by adding Justin Verlander. I think ironically, then on Tuesday night, the Rangers pushed their chips in with a 2-hit, 2-0 shutout of the Chicago White Sox. It took under 2 hours. 8 minutes after their game was over, Framber Valdez had pitched a 93-pitch no-hitter for the Astros. So it's going to make for entertaining baseball, and I think both these teams are driven to have an exciting race. Unfortunately, there's only 3 games. I think 3 games left between the two teams. All 3 of those games are in Arlington, right after starting with Memorial Day, September 4th through 6th. So that's going to be interesting. I wish that there was more head-to-head matchups over the last 8 weeks between these teams, but I think it's going to be more than enough fun to be had when they get together in September. All right, on to our other topic for the day. That is the lineup. Listen, the lineup without Jonah Heim, without Corey Seager, they're missing 2 All-Stars, 2 very productive All-Stars. It's hard to go on unaffected without them. Possibility exists that Seager returns sometime this week. Jonah Heim's going to be longer. He has a torn sheath around his tendon in his left wrist. That can be a very painful injury. A number of players have dealt with that. Most recently, Anthony Rendon, who ended up having surgery, and it's really affected him. Don't know the extent of the tear or what the surgical fix would be if the Rangers get there. But I think right now the club is thinking about the possibility that Heim could potentially be able to swing from the left-hand side, where his right hand is the more dominant hand, and the left hand is more top hand, doesn't do as much. And if he can do that and catch, they will be okay. But it's asking a lot. And listen, Heim has been super, super valuable to this team this year. He's been exceptional at framing pitches, and he's been that rarest of rarities right now, a effective offensive catcher, 70 RBIs, an OPS over 800. He has been a very significant contributor to the offense, and without him, the Rangers are casting about a little bit. Mitch Garver has a good track record. He's a Silver Slugger winning catcher, but he's been injured the last couple of years. And when he plays as the DH rather than catcher, there does seem to be a difference in his performance. And he can't catch every day the way Heim did because of concerns about the number of injuries that he had and whether or not his body can hold up. So the Rangers will go with three catchers. They'll go with Mitch Garver, with Sam Huff, and with Austin Hedges to try and guide this staff through the next couple of weeks. Heim will take at least 2-3 weeks to kind of recover, rest that wrist, see if he can get the inflammation and the swelling out of it, see if he can hit. If he can't, then you're looking at season-ending surgery, and you're looking at having to go with that three-catcher rotation the rest of the way. You're hoping that Garver, who had a home run on Tuesday night, can get into more of a swing and can stay healthy. You're hoping that Hedges can help guide this staff effectively. And you're hoping that Sam Huff, even though he's played very, very little, can make some contributions. There's no question that Sam has great power. Home run he hit in Houston right after he entered the game for Jonah Heim, I think damaged Minute Maid Park. But he's still raw as a catcher, and the game can speed up on him behind the plate. So that's something to be worked through, and it's something Bruce Bochy and Chris Young have had to work through on the fly because they weren't really counting on going out and having to add a catcher or having to tweak the catching situation until Heim got hurt Wednesday night in Houston. So that's still a developing factor. But there are three young hitters who have really struggled since the All-Star break. Not terribly surprising. Josh Young is a rookie in his first year, went to the All-Star game, played, didn't have much of a break, and has looked a little bit worn down lately, chasing too much, 37% strikeout rate since the All-Star break, 219 batting average, and probably has lost the mojo in the Rookie of the Year race to Baltimore's Gunnar Henderson at this point in time. But he's hardly the only young guy struggling. Ezekiel Duran, perhaps Duran heard his name in trade rumors. Perhaps he wondered whether or not he would end up with the Rangers at the end of the trading period. He is here. The Rangers value him. And no matter how much a team says, oh, we block out the trade stuff, they do not block out the trade stuff. It gets in guys' heads. Guys wonder if they don't go seek it out in newspapers or online. They certainly hear about it from family members and friends. And it's a stressful week. The week leading up to the deadline is a stressful week. You have a lot of wacky things happen in baseball. And so, I think it has impacted Duran. He's 7 for 45 since the All-Star game, a 156 batting average. He just hasn't. He just has not been productive. The other guy who's really playing a full season for the first time, even though he's been up for parts of really the last 3 years, is Leody Taveras, who's really playing every day for the first time in his life. And he looks like he's gotten mechanically out of whack a little bit too. 186, not taking walks right now, a 222 on base percentage since the All-Star break. The season gets long on young players. They're used to a minor league season, used to a 140-game season. At this point in time, they would be seeing the stretch run. Right now, August becomes such a long month for players because you go from that period of the All-Star break, you get a little time to catch your breath in most cases, into the trade deadline period, full of rumors, very hectic. And then August, before you can get to that sprint in September, before you can say, this is it, let's go, you've got another month where in most places the heat can be almost oppressive. And you've got to navigate through that before you can really, really just say, I'm going to get by on adrenaline. So that is the Rangers. I think that's the Rangers' issue in the lineup right now. You take time out of the bottom half of the lineup, and you have to move everybody else up to cover up for Corey Seager's absence. And this team is struggling offensively to score runs. They scored 4 runs in 3 games at San Diego and 2 runs against Chicago on Tuesday night or Monday night. Tuesday night. I've lost track of days. I've lost track of everything. Can't stop yawning. I am an old dude, my friends. But nevertheless, the Rangers plod on. They approached the 2/3 mark of the season with game 108 this week. They were a 35-19 team in the first 54 games. Second 54 games, they flirted right with 500. If they can, if they need to play above 500 the rest of the way to hold on to that American League West first place situation. And they may need to play significantly above 500. The Astros are the world champions for a reason. They've been playoff tested. They've been playoff race tested. They are getting healthy with Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez both back in the lineup. They added Justin Verlander and Kendall Graveman. And so they have a lot going for them. But I do think that this Ranger team can now refocus, can get back into knowing that they've got some reliability in the starting rotation, get some guys healthy, and just play the games in front of them. If they do that, I think they will. I don't want to say they'll be fine because you'd hate to see a team that has led the American League West for going on 100 consecutive days end up finishing second and losing out and ending up having to play in the wild card round. But look, the Rangers have arrived. They are contending this year. They are probably a year ahead of schedule, and they have improved their club at the trade deadline. It is the best situation probably the Rangers could hope for going into August. We'll see what happens. I'll be here, hopefully not yawning. Hopefully passing along whatever information I can give you. Covering up my shiny bald spot. Well, I have a big bald spot, but covering up the shine like this where it looks like I have a headache. But I will be around. Look forward to covering the rest of the season with you and talking every week on This Week in Rangers Baseball. See you soon, everybody. This is good video.